Hello and good afternoon. I'm Dr. Terry James Gingrass, and this is Dr. G's ADHD Chat, a program trying to make the world safe for ADHDers. That may sound a little dramatic, but it's kind of the truth. Kids with ADHD are routinely misunderstood to an incredible degree. I live in an area where, it doesn't seem like anybody in the school system really understands ADHD. I know there are some who are parents of ADHD kids, but by and large, administration seems to be dramatically opposed to giving ADHD kids some of the things they need. But that's not really why we're here. I am, if you haven't been on one of these before, I am a clinical psychologist and neuropsychologist. I'm in private practice, and I do 60 or so % of everything in my practice. It has to do with ADHD. I do children, adults, adolescents, people who've never been diagnosed with ADHD, people who've been diagnosed with ADHD and lapsed out of treatment, if you will. With the new laws, that if you drop out of treatment, that means you have to get reevaluated in order to get any doctor to write you a prescription. So that's neither here nor there. The thing I want to correct a little bit, and it's because I've been getting some feedback this week, particularly both in my practice and online, that people sometimes are surprised that, you get the good diagnosis, I've had a good workup, you know what's going on, you start getting on treatment, the medication improves things, and you think, that's it, we've done it, we're all done. Not so much, okay? Things change all the time. You put a kid on a certain dosage of medication, and dosage is the tricky part. The type of medication is not all that tricky, okay? But the dosage is what really will mess things up. And so you see all of a sudden some different behavior from your child. Okay, well, it is possible that the medication is no longer as effective. There are a number of things that could be going on. He or she has grown a lot, added a lot of body mass. They've hit puberty, and that's happening earlier and earlier. Not sure exactly why, but that seems to be what is going on. And there are just normal changes in the way things work. Your child is not a little adult. Your child is a young human, and everything in that young human body is growing and developing and changing. Like the brain is not done until you're in your mid-20s, which is perhaps more obvious with some groups of folks than others, but the idea that your child's brain is going to stay the same, from age 7 or 8 or whenever they get diagnosed until they, go to college or leave the house, whatever, is just, it doesn't work that way. Okay, the brain is continuously changing, developing, progressing. Maturity in the brain is usually about judgment. The emotional part of the brain is pretty much done, guess when? Adolescence, teenagerhood. That's why the emotions are so much stronger than the judgment when they're teenagers. That's why they all tend to do the same rebellious thing at the same time. It's just part of the neurodevelopmental process. But that can mean that your medication dosage is off, is not where it should be. That is one possibility. Okay? We tend to jump on the biochemistry because that's the easiest one to control. But you also need to be looking at more of the lifestyle things. What is going on in your child's life? Who is he or she playing with? What kind of things are they doing? What kind of media are they being exposed to? What kind of behaviors are they seeing on TV? I have considerable objections to most of the family sitcoms that are on TV because they have a mother who's all wise, a father who's a blithering idiot, and a smart aleck teenager, or younger than that sometimes, who wisecracks continuously and gets big laughs and no retribution, shall we say? That's not the way life works. It's not the way any of us were raised. And it glorifies, being a smart aleck. Whoops, almost screwed up there. Being a smart aleck. And so it's not surprising to me that sometimes our kids think, well, what the heck? It was funny when whatever it was on that show said it, so maybe I'll say something similar and see how it goes over. And that does happen. It happens continuously. We need to be aware of it, and we also need to be, what do I want to say? We need to accept it calmly and understand that it doesn't mean that this whole treatment process is messed up and isn't working. It may have nothing to do with the biochemistry. It may have nothing to do with the treatment program. It's just a kid trying out a new behavior that he or she has seen in other places be accepted. Ooh, that was a long, convoluted way of saying it. Basically you see it on TV, you try it. It's as simple as that. And sometimes that really freaks us all out as parents, that our child would say something like that to me, that disrespectful, that hostile sounding, that whatever. But it doesn't mean your treatment program is fatally flawed. It doesn't mean that you are a failure as a parent or any of those other dramatic things you may tell yourself. You're doing the best you can. You're trying as hard as you can. Good for you. Keep it up. Sometimes there are going to be some rough patches. Sometimes a young man or young lady's going to say something to you might have faced some corporal punishment if you'd said that to your father or mother. But it is not personal, and it does not mean the whole treatment program is failing. It means you got to hang in there, check and see if it's the medication, sure. But if your prescriber is pretty competent and can, he obviously cannot completely rule out, or she, whatever your provider's orientate. Forget that. I've just started to get politically correct, and like always, it confuses me. But your doctor won't be able to completely rule in or rule out that medication is not the cause of difficulties, or the lack of enough, or the lack of the wrong kind, or the right kind, or all those sort of things. Can't rule that out just in an office visit. Can probably ask you enough questions that he'll get a pretty good idea of whether or not it's got anything at all to do with the biochemistry. Okay? There are a few cases where we know that certain stimulant medications have made adolescents more hostile, but not everybody, not all adolescents. Otherwise, we probably wouldn't be using it so much. And there's, a couple of different things that people are looking at when they do prescribe medication. And your doctor, I mean. For focus problems, stimulant medications seem to be the best way to go. Okay, that's just hands down. They can concentrate better and da-da-da-da-da. There's a new kind of theory going around that suggests that you need, if you want to control the busy mind kind of thing, I'm thinking about everything at once kind of thought process, that you may need to be on one of the alpha agonists. Alpha agonist is just a fancy way of talking about the newer medications that work on neurotransmitters, such as Intuitive, for instance. I'm not recommending that particularly. I'm just saying that's a good example. And sometimes you need to have a combination of stimulant medication and an alpha agonist to totally handle the problems that a child with ADHD can have. Not always. No, I'm not saying that, but sometimes it is more effective. But don't ever forget that you're not raising these kiddos in a vacuum. That they have friends, they have school influences, they have entertainment influences, and not all of them are good role models for them. And your job, you still have to parent them. You still have to say, whoa, that's not the way to talk to your mother or whatever. But you don't just let them go and think it's funny to be rude or to be disrespectful. Then, it doesn't, because they have ADHD doesn't mean that there's no need for any kind of discipline. It just means that you're setting limits rather than you're punishing the heck out of them for what they do. We know that basically what punishment does is it suppresses behavior. It doesn't change it. What you want to do is focus on no, that's not appropriate. It's okay to say this, but that's not appropriate. Fine. No harm, no foul. And you've still, set some parental limits, and you've got your young man or young lady knowing that not everything they do or say is right, and not everything that they do or say is wrong, but that they can be corrected calmly by an adult who's under control and doesn't have big veins bulging out of their forehead and some look like they're ready to commit an act of violence. You don't need that. You don't want that. So that's kind of where we are with that. I just wanted people to know that just because you've done all the things you should do to get them started on the right track, that doesn't mean they're going to stay there. That doesn't mean there are not going to be some changes. That doesn't mean there are not even going to be some setbacks. Okay? I'm just saying that when certain things start to occur, you want to be thinking more in terms of what other influences could be causing this. Because it's not all biochemistry. Okay? They're still living in our culture, watching TV shows and internet stuff and playing video games and so on and so forth. And, it's also what kind of family activities are they being exposed to. And you also got to watch those too. You don't want to just go for anything. That really sounded bad. You just want to be aware that what you do can have an impact on their behavior. And as long as you're cool and calm and can correct that behavior, it's probably not a big deal. Okay, that is me for this week. I'm Dr. Terry James Gingras, and this is Dr. G's ADHD Chat. This is a show trying to make the world safe for ADHDers, because ADHDers are outside the box thinkers, and outside the box thinkers are the folks who change the world. So maybe that'll be your young man or young lady. Okay, we will catch you next time. My website is terrygingrasphd.com, and we'll catch you next week.